What is that scratching sound?
Sorry, because just to say, I muted myself on my headset like
Oh, you did?
locally.
That's
Yeah, it
weird.
was still coming through. So sorry.
What's scratching? You have rats in the walls or something?
Where's your microphone on your computer? It's your beard. Your beard is hitting
Oh,
the
how weird!
microphone.
Is that what it is?
That's what that is.
Oh man. All right. I'm gonna have to do a hold the mic out from my
Oh, that's so
beard.
weird.
I
Wow, I might have
love
to
it.
keep. I might have to use that as like a blooper at the beginning or something.
I
What's
know.
that scratching sound?
Yeah. So yeah. So coming back into the recording, pro tip:
Mhm.
if you're wearing a headset, don't let your scraggly beard scratch against the microphone, or it causes recording issues. All right.
Yeah.
GM extraordinaire, the GMologist. Carl Rodriguez is the GMologist.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geomologist Presents. I have some cool people on tonight, kind of part of my ongoing series of interviewing creatives, especially creatives that for me are local. And today I have Joshua Harper and Chris Koger of Spooky Bell Games. So how are you guys doing today?
Doing great, Carl. Appreciate you having us on.
Yeah, doing fantastic. Thank you for putting all this together.
Yeah, and you know this is like a Zine Quest month, and these guys contacted me, which is great. I love always having guests on, especially people who are in the biz, as it's called. Is it called that? I don't think it's called that.
We'll allow it.
We'll allow it. I know it's kind of like showbiz. Maybe it's showbiz, but anyway, uh, the cool thing is, like I said, these guys are local. They live in San Antonio. We have regular meetings here in San Antonio of all the creatives, the tabletop role playing game creatives, and I think it's a pretty cool vibes that we got going in a cool little community. So it's great to have you guys on, and you're here for you contacted me because you guys have a Zine Quest offering coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. This Zine Quest 2023 coming in hot since Zine Quest 2022 was in the fall this last time. So, but yeah, I appreciate you having us on. We've been on before, each of us doing separate projects in the past,
And now it's
But
a
yeah, we have
collaborative.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, we have a cyborg zine coming out as part of Zine Quest on Kickstarter, starting February 21st and running through March 13th. I'm super stoked about it.
It's pretty neat Zine Quest so far. I know several friends of mine have started or put something on the Zine Quest, and I've backed it, and I really am I think enjoy the offerings that we're seeing out of Zine Quest. So I'm glad you guys are on board with it. I'm looking forward to your stuff. Oh, I guess both you and Joshua then are collaborating on this project.
Yeah, we're collaborating together on this. Like Chris said, we both kind of started doing stuff together in the San Antonio scene. Sometime in the fall last year, just kind of started talking about working on some smaller projects, some zines, things like that. And it's just been a blast writing stuff together, just kicking ideas off of each other, and you know, so just collaborating and putting together a zine with my friend Chris here.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me about, well, I guess Cyborg is like a new iteration of the Merkborg, I guess, engine. So maybe you
Mhm.
guys want to tell me a little bit about that for people who might not know about it, and then tell me a little bit about the project.
Yeah, so as a game, it's sorry, I'll take this, Chris.
Do it.
Morkborg, it's a fun little game where you have like it's low to the ground. You got 4 stats. Cyborg is a hack of that. It's a little bit expanded. You have 5 stats now, so you have they add this little knowledge stat in, so you can kind of it's like a placeholder for magic, kind of, I guess, is a really easy way of phrasing it. But it's a new stat. You use it for like technology that you interact with in the cyberpunk universe. It's a grim, dark world. Nothing's really happy. Instead of having miseries, you have headlines. It's like the news. But it's a cool cyberpunk world. I think it's very punk and very much carries that same Morkborg aesthetic over.
Nice. Yeah, it is nice because like much like Morkborg, Cyborg is pretty lean rules wise. Like there's enough to dig in and have a good time with, but it really gives you a lot of freedom to kind of play around in that world. And it does carry over, like Josh said, kind of a little bit of the like weird, bizarre grossness of Morkborg, mixed in with the cyberpunk aspects of it. But very anti-corporate, anti-establishment kind of vibes, with kind of the world falling apart and you finding your way in that kind of apocalypse.
Yeah, is there an apocalypse clock like there is in Morkborg?
Yeah, like Josh mentioned, like so there's the miseries in Morkborg. You have like kind of what they call headlines in Cyborg. So you're kind of getting the news as things kind of fall apart, basically, in the world around you. So,
okay, so there is a chance at some point that the world ends. So I
Yeah.
remember there is a misery you get to in Morkborg where the world ends. So is there something like that, like the world blows up, it's nuked or something, and
Yeah, it's like what happens is I don't know exactly the phrasing of it, but basically the simulation resets kind of. So it's like you realize you're in a simulation and that starts to break down and then it resets itself.
so it's like a big AI game, I guess. Interesting, maybe.
Yeah, which is fun because
Or like
talking about
kind of like the Matrix, I guess, right?
yeah, there's a little bit of that Matrix vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're talking about AI because that's kind of one of the ideas behind the zine that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Josh and I kind of both like older kind of acid horror and psychedelic horror stuff and cyberpunk. So we're kind of mashing those ideas together a little bit, where the adventure revolves around either stealing or liberating or destroying this AI that's kind of buried at the bottom of the hard light dynamics building. But due to the experiments, these perfect fractals and hard light and all the stuff that they're messing with, you're getting kind of like distortions in reality, kind of they call like screen tears where you kind of things don't match up the way they're supposed to and kind of knock back together. So the further down into the research facility, the closer to this AI that you get, the more the world kind of melts around you and you can become detached from reality.
Cool. So Josh, you guys are both collaborating on this. So you said adventure, so it's adventure, part setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a ton of fun. Like Chris said, it's cyberpunky, it's psychedelic horror. Both genres I really like. And I think that there's like a ton of cool stuff that people are gonna have access to in this that really plays into those themes. It wasn't exactly easy to write the psychedelic horror stuff, but I think that there's a lot of cool stuff we have going on here that gives players a lot of fun, events, moments that they can have these encounters and really, play with the world. I think that's like the fun part about it. The world's very much alive in it. I think that was an important part of, capturing that feeling of the psychedelic horror.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the zines are generally pretty short. So any idea how big this is going to be, or what's the page count, or that you can estimate, or you've already, and I guess a progress, how far along is it?
It's like, I would say it's mostly written. I laughed because we did a big rewrite, just because I was like, I'm feeling some stuff and want to get in this direction. So we did a big rewrite. So we had it pretty much mostly done. And then we did a bunch of rewrites and it's back to mostly almost finished now, as far as writing goes. It's about, I think, 28 pages right now. And I think we put a hard limit in just to stop ourselves from writing too much. We said, 35 pages, I think?
Yeah, 32 is the limit. I'm going to make Josh start cutting things out and throwing them away if he
Oh, wow.
writes any more than that. So
Yeah, yeah. So it's like a part adventure, part expansion, I guess, into the psychedelic horror aspect of Cyborg. So you think it's like how many? If it's an adventure, is the adventure going to be like? Is it kind of more of a convention style, or do you think like several sessions or like a mini campaign? Like, what do you envision for
I would
this?
say it's good for an adventure. You could sit down in 4 to 6 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and run through everything. So you always want to give people like kind of a toolbox to use, but then
Mm-hmm.
also give them a path to follow if they want to be able to just run through the story.
Right.
So there's a couple of new classes, there's new items, there's encounter tables and stuff like that to use to kind of randomize and mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want, you can drop into the top floor and literally just head floor by floor down through the rooms, and kind of get the whole story and gist and feel of the game.
Yeah.
And then if someone wanted to, milk it for other stuff, they've got all those tools to be able to do that.
Yeah. So you could start it like in medias res while you're dropping onto the top of the encounter area, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. As a DM, it's funny when you run games and you write games, right? But when I run games, that's kind of like my favorite thing to do is like drop you in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's always fun. So for me, like looking at, I'm going to be playtesting it again. We give you adventure hooks as to why you're there and what's going on and what was your means of entry.
Mm-hmm.
But I will probably just stick people in that first, floor in the middle of it and ask them a few questions about how they got there and what went right and what went wrong and put them right in the middle of the action and get
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah. It's a really, I think it's a really good way to open an adventure. Just thinking even so like you kind of start in medias res and then you have to like flashback a little bit to why are the player characters there, whatever, genre or game system you're using. You come out of, let's say in a science fiction game, you come out of hyperspace and you're here's the situation, what are you going to do? And then you get some, hopefully the players will ask questions to figure out what the hell's going on and go from there. But that seems very similar. You, like you said, you could drop on the top floor and get going, which I think is a cool way to go, especially I think for example, I were to run this at a convention.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
Josh.
this is definitely something that I would run at conventions.
Okay.
I love games that you can run at conventions. Like that's my bread and butter. I grew up playing, like when I would play games, it'd be one shots generally speaking. I've played in only a few campaigns, so I played mostly one shots. So I think I'm better at writing that. And then I also just think that that's like, like a lot of people are, going to cons and playing these or, trying to get their friends involved in playing these. And I think having like an enclosed experience that you can run through multiple times and get different outcomes, like the
Oh, yeah, that's
events,
neat. Yeah.
the encounters, right? There's like these, these kind of more unique encounters we put in there, and you can only encounter 3 of them, I think. But actually, there's 6 of them that total that you could encounter. So you could, go through and have a totally unique experience the second time you play it.
So there's good reusability.
I would say so.
Oh, that's good. That's a plus, I would say, as opposed to just a one and done. You can run it multiple times, and even as a GM running it, it'll be a different experience for you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know what your players are going to go through, and the items are cool. Like everyone loves new items,
Yeah.
new classes. Those are all fun, and you have like a cool setting that's designed around the theme of them. So that's all fun. But again, I think like the events, the replayability, it just all fits together into a nice little 4-hour package.
Oh, nice. So can you spoil any of the new classes or new items? We probably don't want to spoil the adventure, but maybe some of the new classes and new items. Can you talk about those?
Yeah, so we each wrote a class. I thought that would be a fun thing if we both wrote a class. We both had an idea for a class from the very beginning, so that was a nice thing as well. I wrote the hard light engineer. So in the game world that we've created, they have like a lot of hard light elements. So for those unfamiliar, right, like it's light that has some sort of physical element to it where you can interact with it. So I thought it'd be cool if you had this guy who was kind of like the Green Lantern. He's got like a shield that he can generate maybe of hard light, or maybe he makes these weapons. But, unlike Green Lantern, right, they're indistinguishable from reality. They're actually these tools that this person's able to create, using hard light. And I thought that would be a cool thing to build a class around that.
Yeah, so it's hard light, something that's in Cyborg.
It's like a sci-fi thing. I mean, a good example of it in recent media would be Miss Marvel, the TV show.
Okay.
She uses
Yeah,
like
yeah.
her powers are kind of like that. I wouldn't say what we're doing is exactly like that, but that's like a good
Mhm.
recent kind of addition to that whole sci-fi topic, I think.
Okay. And Chris,
Yeah, the one of the things, it's funny, after we wrote that, is I hadn't listened to the Adventure Zone in a little while, and then I listened to a couple episodes since they're doing Blades in the Dark,
Mhm.
and one of the guys was talking about Hard Light, and I was like, "You son of a," yeah. So it's the ideas out there, it's present in sci-fi and cyberpunk stuff.
yeah. And so what's your
But yeah,
class? What's your class organization?
yeah, so right now it's called the Art Punk. It's kind of a mix up of like a hacker and a graffiti artist, and kind of a street punk, street kid. So, the Art Punk scavenges stuff from out on the streets, and has a whole kit of kind of junk. And then they hack that junk into whatever kind of gear, but they specialize in visual things. So, that could be, holographic stuff or hacking screens or melting down, billboards or, one of the items they carry, they can put together is this little splint they can stick onto something or stab into somebody, and then it'll project an image around them so they don't like who they are. So you could use that for yourself, but then you could also use that against someone else. They can craft a little drone, you know what I mean, to get to hard to reach places. So it's definitely been a fun class to kind of play around with.
Well, this isn't your first rodeo, so to speak, into the Kickstarter realm. So you guys, or Spooky Bell Games, has a current Kickstarter that's being fulfilled. Because I at least I got the PDF, and that is for Beyond Deep. Can you tell me a little bit about that and where we're at with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Beyond Deep was the first thing we put out as Spooky Bell Games. That was Wes Askelis and myself, Chris Koger. Shout out Wes, you to them. So yeah, we sent out PDFs, first just a preview and then finals, and we made a couple little edits. So the digital information is out there. The books are getting printed right now.
Cool.
So once they get printed and packed up, they get back to our house. We're doing the fulfillment. We have about 400 orders, and both Wes and I have packed and shipped stuff before. So we're going to have a big, packing party, one day once everything comes in, and
Nice.
Get all that stuff out the door, man. So I'm excited, Yeah, Beyond Deep is a Morkborg book. If people aren't familiar with it, it's perfect bound, digest size, 100 pages. It started off as an adventure and ended up pretty much being an entire setting book of a whole city and a mine and everyone that lives there and the buildings and the creatures and all kinds of stuff.
Right. Yeah. So I guess we were talking before I started recording. I'm going to North Texas RPG Con. We were talking about cons, and I thought that I might, since I have the PDF already, I probably can think about running something from there. And we were talking about distilling parts of it out for like a convention time frame. Yeah. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything is in there. So, there's enough meat there to play it across a few sessions, but there's definitely an adventure there that you could sit down in 2 to 4 hours, and kind of run through. When we play tested, every good plan, only survives as long as there aren't any players. And,
right.
Once the players get involved, then you never know what's going to happen. So we had people just burn through it and, murder everyone. And we had people take time and explore little nooks and crannies. And so, yeah, it's definitely runnable as a convention game.
Cool. That sounds good. And Josh, what have you worked on that you want to share? What are you working on other than this awesome sideboard project that we've been talking about?
I would say shout out to the Zine Quest project I was working on, Hunters of the Occult. That's from Storywood Games. I was working on that alongside, they were doing Beyond Deep, and I believe that is launching soon. I'm not as involved with that at this point in time, but I know that they're in the final stages of it, and that's coming soon.
Great.
So keep an eye out for that. And then there's I'm trying to think. I think the other thing I did that we really liked was the I I really like the holy artifacts of the sacred tragedies. That's the one I think people like. If I could recommend one thing we did outside of Hunters of the Occult, I would say it's the holy artifacts. I think those are fun. The art's all really cool. The adventures are all really cool. They're all standalone, but they could also be used together to tell a Borkborg campaign. So
Oh, nice.
I would check that out as well. That was supposed to be the Zine Quest project from this time last year. So.
Oh wow! And that is already out now.
Yeah, and that's on Drive Through RPG. You can check it out
cool.
there. And shout out Scott if you hit him up on Discord or on Twitter. I'm sure he'll send you a copy.
To me personally, or to my listeners?
Two listeners. You know, he
nice.
sells them. He sells them.
Oh yeah.
So
well, you can go on Drive Through. I'll probably put a link in the show notes for all these cool things that you guys are listing. So I know you guys are very busy creating a lot of stuff, but have you had time to play things outside of what you're creating? I mean, do creatives actually play games, or do they just sit back and laugh maniacally while they're typing out the horrible things they're going to do, or they think that the GMs are going to do to players?
Yeah, getting games in is definitely hard, you know, just as an adult in general. It's always tough. I'm kind of a forever DM or forever GM, you know, so I'm usually running games all the time. You know, I mentioned Wes earlier. Wes usually always has stuff running though, and if I have the time to squeeze in, they will always make room for me to be a player, which I appreciate. And it's funny. I mean, I've had like a game that I've been running for like 4 years, but the last 6 months, I think we've gotten together like 4 or 5 times. So you know,
wow. Yeah,
things have slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely happens. Yeah, I know, especially like during the holidays, I have like an ongoing Deadlands game that we haven't met for a long time because of people's schedules. So it just happens.
Yeah,
cool.
I'm playing in a game from Wes as well. They're running Monster of the Week. We meet once a month. And then outside of that, I try to do playtesting. I think playtesting is a ton of fun because there's like, you know, there's no stakes, so you can kind of get like a little weirder with things and see like you're really trying to push the boundaries, and you create these really fun moments. So I had this one guy in my last playtest. Shout out to my friend Aaron. He got this boombox that drives you insane and sends you into a cyber rage, and it's a mechanic in the game, and we just had a really fun moment where they put this boombox down, everyone started listening to it and started fighting, and it was like really fun moments like that came out of that playtest. So I try to get as much playtesting as I can.
Is that boombox of rage in the product?
The Cyrage, it's a Cyrage is a mechanic in the game.
No, yeah, but the boombox that causes it. Did you just spoil the product?
No, that's from someone else's zine. That's from.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
That sounds like
Darknet Filth.
It sounds like a great idea, though.
Yeah, that's from Darknet Filth.
Yeah, Darknet Filth.
Yeah, pretty cool zine.
Oh wow.
But yeah, no spoilers for the spoilers for Hardlight.
Yeah, I mean, playtesting is a great excuse to run games.
Yeah.
You know, at least every month or two, if you're in a Discord with me, there's a couple that are like more personal. Then, you know, you'll hear me, you know, going, hey, sometime in the next 7 days, I need 4 people at least. Come run this random game and this random adventure that I'm working on. And people are pretty good sports. So that's always fun.
So I have a great question. Because you guys both mentioned playtest. So what percentage of the playtest material do you keep then? Like do you mostly like just throw as much crazy stuff out there as you can, and then you maybe keep like less than half of it? Or are these coming to a playtest where you have something pretty well developed and a lot of it is kept? And I guess that's what I'm asking. Like, what's the...
It varies a lot.
It definitely varies, but yeah.
For me, it varies a lot. I would say just from like Cyborg to like 1886 is the game I talked about with that Western one.
Yeah.
You know, like that, when I do a lot of playtesting with that, I'm really doing a lot of fine tuning on it. So the first couple playtests, I cut a lot off, but after like 3 or 4, I found that I was really happy with where things were. I was just trying to perfect that gameplay loop.
So just refine the stuff at the end, refining stuff in the later playtest, but then early playtests.
cut a lot off.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
zines, I noticed that when I was doing my zines, because like I'm working on a couple right now, and when I do the playtest for them, a lot of times I'll be like, oh my goodness, I don't like any of this stuff that I thought would work. So I'll cut off a lot of that.
Oh
And then
man.
but it's for the better usually, come back with newer ideas, and you don't like get rid of old ideas. A lot of times they'll be repurposed in another project, or maybe you find a use
Mm-hmm.
for them in your current one, but like the format is usually what's wrong with it, I think. And so for me, it's like I see, oh my goodness, I'm trying to do too much here, I'm not doing enough here, almost every first time I run a playtest. So I cut a lot off when I do a playtest, usually the first couple times.
And what's your formatted? Do you have like a notebook? Are you like a journal? Is that how you're keeping track of all this?
I'll keep a legal pad. Like I have like a
Okay.
big table, so I'll have a big legal pad in front of me, and it's just easier to write down key moments of like things I like, things I didn't like,
Mm-hmm.
because it's good to know what I in the moment was thinking when this was happening, because yeah, I hate to admit it, but sometimes I'm sure we've all been there when we're running something and it's like, oh my god, what was I thinking? But on
Mm-hmm.
paper it seems so cool.
Yeah, and the mechanic doesn't work, or a lot of times the players are like confused and kind of don't know what
Hmm.
to do next, and you're like, oh, I thought it would go this way, but they turn
Hmm.
left. They turn left at Albuquerque or something. And so, how about you, Chris? What's your process through playtesting? And
Yeah, I tend to iterate a lot and get something pretty close to a point where I feel good about it all the way around. So I usually tend to play test a little bit later than Josh. But it's the same thing. You run stuff and you write down notes. This worked great. This was terrible. This is cool, but it needs a little bit of work for clarification. Or uh, one of the players did this. I never thought about that, and it destroyed everything. So all those things are fun to deal with, and so yeah, I just take a long thing, and then when I get a little later on after those first rounds, um, one of the things I'm looking at is if things are flowing smoothly, is I try to look at what am I referencing, what do I need, kind of
mm-hmm.
from a game master's point of view, as far as like arranging the book. There's a couple times where I'm beyond deep, and I was like, oh, it'd be nicer if this was over here and this was over here, then I could
Oh,
get to it a little bit
yes.
easier. Or if I buried these stats, into this page, that way I didn't have to go back and reference them, stuff like that.
Well, I kind of appreciate that because definitely there's something to be said about kind of play testing the layout, like you just
Yeah.
explained, right? So
Hmm.
because there are times when you're like, what was that again? Where was that? And you got to flip through pages and find things. And I would say some people, some companies, and some designers are better at the layout stage than others, right? Where it's easier to find and at your fingertips, which is the ideal, as opposed to having to reference and then reference again, right? Different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Laying something out, writing something is such a different skill set than laying something out in a way that it's usable.
Mhm.
And then even that is a different skill set than laying something out in a way that's usable and that still looks nice.
Right. So I guess I don't know if we should bring that up again. It seems like whenever we talk about art and layout, when we talk about Mark Borg and adjacent products. So is this art? Is this zine going to be art heavy? And do you like that, or would you rather be less art, easier to read, or what's your take? What do you guys take on that?
I kind of really like both, honestly. Like, I think the fact that they do a bare bones Morkborg and then just like they do totally opposite ends. They do bare bones edition. It's the free, just the text, and you
Mm-hmm.
can get the really artsy book. And I think that's awesome because, like, there's accessibility reasons behind it, or maybe you
Mhm.
just don't want to, go searching through the book. Maybe you want to hit Control F to find something. Like I think there's a lot of, like you give the user the option, and it's not too much harder. I don't think. I'm sure like it's hard to adapt something once it's already done, but I've been writing like since I saw that happen right with the bare bones edition. I was like, I could do that. If I make something, I could create a PDF that doesn't have it because I love the art, but for some people it is too much. I do see a lot of people say the layout is too hard, too much for me to get into. It's too, it's kind of confusing, a little intimidating even. And the bare bones edition, I tell them, check out the bare bones edition, see how you like it. And a lot of those people are like, oh, so, it was good for me. It started to click. I was able to understand it a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's finding the line, right? With Cyborg and with Morkborg, you have that Nor kind of Stockholm Cartel, insane layout and wild visuals and art, which gives you like such a good vibe, but it makes it a little harder sometimes to parse or flip through to find what you're looking for. So this one, I mean, it's going to look like a Cyborg book. It's going to have our own feel. It's going to have a little bit more of some of the psychedelic horror stuff and layouts, but I'm really playing with some layouts right now. I send stuff to Josh every day, like, what do you think about this? What's good? What's bad? Is this working? That way we can kind of find the style where you can get to the information, but then you still flip to a page and you're like, man, that's cool as hell.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it's gonna be a lot of pinks and yellows.
Less on the yellows for us. The pinks are there, purples, blues,
Yep.
reds.
Nice.
But black and white, obviously. We kind of put together like a style guide early on with stuff that we like and color schemes and different things. So we have a giant folder with like a crap ton of images and different things to reference off of. Which is pretty nice. And that was part of, we talked about kind of the acid horror, psychedelic horror thing, so that was, pulling off of screen caps from Suspiria and, House 1977 and stuff and pulling colors and, kind of visual styles out of some of that.
Cool. Well, that sounds really great. Some amazing info on design and from writing to layout and to play testing. So I guess the last question I have for you guys, I don't know if you would have any questions for me, but the last question I have for you guys is, what is the appendix N for your product, right? The appendix N being what is a film or media inspiration for the hard light dynamic? Like, what would people?
I would have to list a few.
Yeah, that's fine. That's great. Yeah, so people were like, oh, I want to get into the mood.
I can say, for sure, Koger has told me, Chris has told me, he's, I love media. I love a lot of media, and Chris can attest to how many things I've sent him of like, oh, have you seen this movie? Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
For sure, I really like Suspiria. I think that's a great film. Rewatching it again and getting back into the vibe for this was a ton of fun. I just had one on the tip of my tongue and it's gone now. But another thing, I've been listening to a lot of Pink Floyd. That's fun to listen to and do some writing a little bit, because I think part of the cyborg world is right, there's alienation, and I think there's a lot of that. I try to draw on some of that a little bit, in this writing, what I've been doing. So I thought those were two things, that kind of media touch points that I have.
Nice. Yeah, exactly what Josh said. I mentioned House, I think 1977, the Japanese one, has some cool trippy stuff in it. There's a little bit of Annihilation in there as well. But it also definitely draws on cyberpunk, stuff. If people haven't watched I know the brand and whatever has its, faults, but the Cyberpunk Edgerunners Netflix anime is a great show, super cool, captures the vibe, really well. I watched Strange Days the other day, and a couple other movies and stuff too, just to get my vibes together.
Well, great. Well, unless you have anything you want to promote, or promoting your Kickstarter that's coming out, again, it's the Hard Light Dynamic, a cyborg zine, and it's coming out. You said the day one of the Kickstarter is February 21st.
That's right.
All right. Anything else you guys want to promote before we sign off?
Beyond Deep coming out soon. And then Hunters of the Occult also coming out soon.
Well, you're going to have Beyond Deep available for sale too, right, Chris? If the people missed the Kickstarter.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got it physically in some local stores. I'm talking to, actually, this last week, to a couple of online vendors to carry stuff physically as well.
Hmm.
And then we'll have prints on demand or PDFs on Drive-Thru RPG also. So you'll be able to get your hands on it, one way or another for sure.
Cool. All right. Anything else, Josh?
No, I think that's it for me. Thanks for having us on, Carl. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah, you're great, Carl. I
Yeah, thank you
appreciate
so much.
supporting creators, man.
Yeah, we gotta get together, play test some games.
Play some Cyborg.
Play some Cyborg. Yeah, let's play some Cyborg or any of the Morkborgs. It'd be great to do. Like I'm already getting ideas to run some of these like Beyond Deep and the like. I don't know. I don't think a Hard Light Dynamic will be out in time for a June con, early June con. If it is, that could be something to run too.
I'm gonna make no promises.
Yeah, but for sure, Beyond Deep. It sounds like you give me some good pointers on how to run it, run some of it at a con.
If you just get a super wild hair and you have to run something cyberpunk come June, let me know and I could slide you a PDF under the table maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, well, I guess I'm committing to everyone's Kickstarters. I'm going to run something from them. Some of my buddies like you guys and Joe Salvador of Raven God Games. I'm going to run some Reaver at some con somewhere. But yeah, it sounds really cool. I'm really looking forward to it, and it's great to talk to you guys again. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Appreciate it.
Just an addendum. So today is Tuesday, February 21st. And as I'm releasing this, the Kickstarter has not started, but I believe it is starting later today. So again, I want to thank my guests, Chris Koger and Joshua Harper. Chris Koger being of Spooky Bell Games and Joshua Harper being a freelancer who are doing a collaboration for this Hard Light Dynamic Kickstarter, like I said, starting later today, February 21st. Thank you all for listening. This has been the Geomologist Presents. You can contact me at geomologist@gmail.com. You can, if you have a question for these guys or myself, you can leave me a voicemail message there, or through the Anchor website, or through my SpeakPipe account, or record a message and drop me a line on the Discord. You can DM me through there, or I'm on various Discords. So again, thanks for listening. The intro and outro music is by TJ Drennan, and today's art comes from the banner for the Kickstarter for Hard Light Dynamic. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks again.